The air in Port Haven was thick with August heat, clinging to skin like a second layer. Officer Julia Bennett wiped sweat from her brow as she stepped out of her cruiser, the hum of cicadas filling the stillness. It was supposed to be a routine call, a dog loose on the edge of town. Nothing more. But something felt off. The German shepherd stood in the middle of the road, right in front of the Pine Hollow exit. He wasn't panicked. He wasn't aggressive. He was staring directly at her cruiser, unmoving, alert. Julia slowly opened her door. The shepherd didn't flinch. His ears twitched once, but his eyes stayed locked on hers. "Hey there, buddy," she said, cautious. "Where's your owner?" The dog took a step forward, then another. Then he turned and ran. Julia frowned. She wasn't new to dogs, especially shepherds. K-9 training back in Dallas, 2 years on narcotics patrol. She knew the difference between aimless wandering and purposeful movement. This dog was leading her. She clicked her radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 307. Got eyes on the animal near Pine Hollow. German shepherd, no collar, moving toward the woods. I'm following on foot." "Copy that, 307. Want backup?" "Not yet," she replied. "Let me see where this goes." She jogged after the shepherd, who had paused just at the edge of the woods. His fur was matted but strong, sable-colored with a black saddle, eyes bright amber. There was intelligence in that gaze. He waited just long enough for her to close the distance, then darted into the trees. Branches clawed at her sleeves as she ran. The shepherd stayed just ahead, turning back every few feet to make sure she was still there. Okay, I'm coming," Julia panted, brushing pine needles from her face. "You better not be taking me to a squirrel." Then she smelled it. Smoke. Faint. Sharp. And something else. Blood. "Rex!" she called out instinctively. The dog stopped dead in his tracks at the name, turned his head, just for a moment. She didn't know why she'd said it. Maybe she'd seen that name on a tag once. Maybe it just fit. But the shepherd responded. And then bolted. Up ahead, the woods gave way to a clearing. Julia froze. A small cabin sat tucked among the trees. The door was half open. Smoke curled from a broken window. And on the porch, blood, dried and streaked across the wood. A trail leading inside. "Jesus Christ," Julia whispered. She drew her weapon. "Police!" she shouted. "Is anyone in there?" No response. Rex growled low beside her, his hackles raised. Then he nudged her leg. Urging. She stepped onto the porch. Every instinct screamed at her to wait, but the blood trail was dark and heavy. Someone might still be alive. Inside, the air was stifling. Furniture overturned, dishes shattered, a phone blinking red on the floor missed calls. And then she heard it. A whimper. Soft. Weak. Julia moved toward the back room, stepping over broken glass. Rex stayed close, a shadow at her heel. She pushed the door open. There, tied to a bedpost, was a young woman. Early 20s. Duct tape over her mouth, wrists bound tight, blood drying at her temple. Julia holstered her gun and rushed over. "It's okay," she said, tearing the tape. "I'm with the police. You're safe now." The woman sobbed, collapsing into Julia's arms. Rex padded forward and lay beside the bed, his eyes never leaving the woman's face. "He saved me," the girl gasped through tears. "He got out. I told him to find help." Julia's throat tightened. She looked at Rex, who now rested his head on the floor as if the mission was complete. "What's your name?" she asked gently. "Haley. Haley Roth." Julia keyed her radio. "Dispatch, this is 307. I need EMS and backup at Pine Hollow. Domestic hostage situation. Victim alive, suspect unknown, fled the scene. I have a civilian canine on site, repeat, a German shepherd. He led me to her. The dispatcher's voice crackled in response. Copy that, Officer Bennett. EMS en route. Unit 215 inbound for support. Julia turned back to Haley. Who did this to you? Haley's voice trembled. My ex. Travis Miles. He snapped. Said if he couldn't have me, no one could. Locked me in here yesterday. He left an hour ago. Said he was coming back to finish it. Rex growled again. He saved you, Julia said softly. You owe him your life. Haley reached down to pet the shepherd, her fingers shaking. He knew. He knew I needed help. Sirens echoed in the distance now. Julia looked down at Rex, her eyes burning. You're not just a dog, she whispered. You're a damn hero. And for the first time in a long time, she felt something shift in her chest. Not fear, not rage, but hope. Officer Julia Bennett paced the hallway outside the ER bay, arms crossed tight against her chest. The hum of fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Haley Roth was inside, being evaluated for a concussion and dehydration. But Julia's mind wasn't on the girl. Not entirely. It was Rex. The German shepherd sat obediently near the sliding glass doors, staring out into the darkness as if still waiting for something. His ears twitched every time a car pulled up, every time a new shadow flickered by. He wasn't just alert. He was anxious. You okay, boy? Julia asked, kneeling beside him. Rex didn't move. His tail thumped once, then stilled. That was when Officer Trey Morales arrived, his tall frame filling the hallway. Just got off the phone with State Patrol, he said. Travis Miles has priors. Restraining order violation 2 months ago. Assault last year. Ex-military. Discharged dishonorably. Julia's jaw tightened. So we're dealing with someone who knows how to hide. Exactly. And get this, Trey continued, lowering his voice. Haley's parents filed a missing person report last night. Local deputies thought she'd run off. No one took it seriously until today. Julia's gut turned. We could have lost her, but we didn't, because of him. They both looked at Rex. A civilian dog. No microchip, no ID tag. But smarter than most trained canines Julia had worked with. Trey scratched the back of his neck. Animal control wants to take him in. Protocol. Not happening. You serious? Julia stood up. He's not evidence. He's a witness. Trey laughed, then saw her expression. You really think there's more? He didn't stop once we found Haley. He's still waiting, still searching. Trey followed her gaze to Rex, who now stood and walked toward the exit, looking back at them once. Julia made her decision. Let's follow him. They drove back toward the Pine Hollow area in Trey's cruiser. Rex sat in the back seat, calm but watchful. The rain had started again, light at first, then harder, smearing the windshield with streaks. Rex barked once, loud, sharp. Julia's heart jumped. Pull over. They stopped near a dirt service road 1 that led toward the old Miller property. Abandoned for years. Overgrown. Rumors said it had once been a survivalist compound. No power, no lines. Rex leapt from the cruiser before the door was fully open, bolting through the trees. Wait! Trey called. Julia was already after him. Branches snapped underfoot. Thunder cracked overhead. Then light. A fire, burning low inside a rusted barrel. And just beyond it, a shed. Ramshackle. Padlocked shut. Rex was barking, feral now. Julia approached the shed, weapon drawn. Port Haven PD! Come out with your hands up! Silence. Then a noise. A scuffle. Someone inside. Trey flanked her. We go in? We cut the lock. The bolt cutters were in the trunk. Trey ran to get them. Julia turned to Rex. "Stay," she said quietly. But he didn't. He lunged at the door. A sound cracked from inside. Then a gunshot. "Down!" Julia screamed, diving behind a stump. Rex was hit. Not badly, but grazed. He yelped, stumbled back, then growled with pure rage. Trey returned, wide-eyed. "What the hell?" "Someone's shooting blind. We have to move." Together they flanked the shed. Another shot rang out. Julia kicked the door with all her force. It flew open, and Travis Miles lunged out, gun raised. Rex hit him mid-air. Chaos. Screaming. Fists. Teeth. Julia fired a warning shot into the air. "Drop it!" Travis dropped the weapon. Fell to his knees. Blood stained his shirt from Rex's bite. "You're under arrest!" Trey barked, cuffing him. As they dragged Travis toward the cruiser, Julia looked down at Rex. He limped. His side was bleeding, but his eyes were locked on hers. Still loyal. Still fierce. She knelt beside him. "You saved another life, Rex." The shepherd licked her hand. And for the second time that night, Julia felt tears sting her eyes. This dog wasn't done yet. He still had something more to say. The forest swallowed them whole the moment they stepped off the gravel road. Dense pines loomed above, filtering sunlight into jagged shards across the undergrowth. Deputy Claire Monroe kept her hand close to her sidearm as she followed the German shepherd through the shadows. Rex moved like he knew exactly where he was going. No hesitation, no sniffing around, just a steady, determined pace. "Rex," she muttered under her breath, wiping sweat from her brow. "You better not be leading me to a squirrel." He didn't even glance back. They were deep in the Prescott State Forest now. Claire could still hear the distant hum of Route 27 traffic behind them, but it faded with every step. The terrain changed quickly. Moss-covered stones replaced soft pine needles. Broken branches cracked under her boots. Birds scattered from their roosts, and something about the stillness made Claire uneasy. She paused and scanned the area. "You're acting like this is urgent," she whispered to Rex. "So what the hell is it?" The dog stopped. He turned his head slowly and looked at her, not like a pet waiting for instructions, but like a soldier sizing up his comrade. Then he barked once, loud and sharp, and darted forward again, faster this time. "Damn it, Rex!" She followed. Branches clawed at her sleeves, her boots caught on thick roots. But she ran anyway, chasing that flash of tan and black fur through the trees. For several heart-pounding minutes, she lost sight of him entirely. Then, another bark. Short. Urgent. She found him at the edge of a ravine. He stood on a narrow path, hackles raised. He didn't move forward, just stood frozen, staring down. Claire stepped beside him, and her stomach dropped. At the bottom of the shallow gorge, hidden beneath a blanket of fallen leaves, was a body. Not fully buried, just enough to conceal it from anyone not looking hard. A tattered jacket sleeve poked through the brush, and a boot stuck out at an unnatural angle. "Jesus," she whispered, already reaching for her radio. "Dispatch, this is Deputy Monroe. I need backup at coordinates." She paused, quickly pulling out her GPS locator. "Grid 509, possible homicide victim. Female, Caucasian, late 20s. And it's recent." She clicked off the radio and crouched carefully, eyes never leaving the body. Blood had dried along the side of the victim's face, trailing from a deep wound near the temple. Her hands were scraped, knuckles split like she'd fought hard. But more chilling than the injuries was what was around her neck, a black nylon collar with a silver buckle. Claire stared. Not a necklace, not a choker. A collar. And a tag. She knelt down beside the woman and, using a gloved hand, turned the tag to read it. Rex, Service Canine, property of Dr. Margot Hunter. Rex whined softly behind her. Claire spun around, stunned. She was your handler? The dog looked at her, tail still, ears back. No? No way. Claire stood up slowly. This was your person? The thought struck her hard. He hadn't been lost. He'd been grieving, trying to find help. She felt something twist in her chest. Rex walked over, sat beside the body, and nudged Margot's limp hand with his nose. His eyes stayed locked on Claire, as if to say, now you understand. Claire reached into her vest and pulled out a flashlight. She scanned the area, broken branches above, drag marks in the dirt, a trail leading deeper into the woods. This wasn't an accident. Margot had been dumped here. Suddenly her radio crackled. Unit 21, this is dispatch. Be advised, we just got a call from a hiker about a white van seen leaving the forest access road 20 minutes ago. No plates. Claire tensed. Copy that. Might be connected. She looked at Rex. We're not done. They climbed down together, carefully avoiding disturbing the scene more than necessary. Claire snapped a few photos for initial documentation, then placed her jacket gently over Margot's body. Don't worry, she whispered. We're going to find out who did this. Then she turned to Rex. You knew. You led me right to her. His eyes stayed on hers, unwavering. Can you take me further? Show me where they went? He stood, circled once, then trotted to the other side of the ravine, nose to the ground. Claire followed. The trail led through thick underbrush, harder terrain now. A broken branch here, a scuffed heel print there. It was clear someone had dragged something or someone through this route. Maybe the body. Maybe something else. 20 minutes in, they came across a clearing where the earth had been disturbed, like a vehicle had turned around quickly. Tire tracks. Claire crouched to examine them. Wide tread. Off-road. Deep impressions. Same pattern we found behind the old vet clinic, she muttered. That's when she saw it. A scrap of paper, half buried in the mud. She pulled it out carefully, wiped it off. It was a faded invoice, Pet Tech Solutions, dated 3 weeks ago. The client name read, M. Hunter. And below that, scrawled in red pen, Final shipment cleared. Her blood ran cold. Pet Tech. That was the company under federal investigation for illegal animal experimentation. Rumors had swirled for months. Secret labs, black market tests, off-grid sites. And now, a murdered handler? She snapped a picture of the invoice, pocketed it, and turned to Rex. This wasn't just a random killing, she said. Someone didn't want her talking. He growled low, deep in his chest. They walked in silence for several minutes before the path curved again, leading them to the remnants of an old structure, half collapsed, camouflaged by vines and age. A rusted sign hung crooked over the door. Petek Field Station 3. Claire's heart pounded. She unholstered her weapon. We might have just found where they're hiding. Rex stood at the threshold, unmoving, waiting. Together they stepped inside, and what they found would change everything. The precinct buzzed as Julia returned, dragging Calvin Drew in cuffs. He was semi-conscious, muttering fragments. Trey took him off her hands while she headed straight to the interrogation room. Rex paced behind her like a shadow, eyes locked on every face they passed. Inside the small room, Julia sat, silent, waiting. Calvin came to slowly. Dried blood streaked across his chin, but his smirk was intact. You got no idea what you're walking into, he said. Enlighten me. He snorted. You think Whitaker's running a little drug operation? This goes beyond Port Haven. State lines. Feds have been bought. He's building something. Distribution hubs, supply chains. You're just a dent. You're a pawn. She shot back. And pawns are expendable. Start talking or you'll be forgotten before lunch. I already told you, Calvin said, leaning back. Ask the girl. Julia slammed her palm on the table. What girl? His smirk widened. She was supposed to die. A knock at the door cut through the tension. Trey stuck his head in. Surveillance footage from the marina just came in. You'll want to see this. Outside the room, Julia reviewed the tape. A shadowy figure approached the houseboat hours before her arrival. Male. Large build. Whitaker? Could be. But what chilled her was the second person barely visible, a smaller silhouette pulled behind him, stumbling. A teenage girl, hooded, struggling. Julia's chest tightened. He had someone with him. Kidnapping? Trey asked. Or worse. Back at her desk, Julia traced Calvin's burner phone history. Messages riddled with code, drop points, supply chains. One name came up again and again, Mirage. Rex barked, sharp and sudden. He stood beside her desk, gaze locked on the evidence board. His ears perked, tail stiff. Then he moved, slow, deliberate, toward the board, stopping at a picture Julia hadn't paid attention to. A blurry surveillance still from 6 months ago. A girl in a hoodie outside a warehouse Whitaker once investigated. Same frame, same build. Rex whined low, pawing at the photo. Julia's skin prickled. Was that her? The girl? How do you know her, boy? She whispered. Rex only stared. Trey approached. Lab confirmed the tag found on Rex's old collar serial number cross-referenced with military K9 units. He's former Army. Special Forces. Julia's breath caught. And get this, Trey continued. Handler listed Corporal Eli Keller, killed in action, 5 years ago. Her heart stopped. Wait, Keller? Trey frowned. You know him? Not him. His sister, Mia Keller. She applied for an internship here last year. I remember her. Smart kid. Didn't take the offer, though. Said something came up. She rifled through her old files until she found it. Mia Keller. Age 17. Last known address, Hillside Youth Center. Foster care. A note scrawled across the bottom in Julia's handwriting. Left unexpectedly. Case closed. Case wasn't closed, Julia whispered. We just stopped looking. Trey read over her shoulder. You think she's the girl in the footage? I know it. She stood. We need to find her. Now! That night, Julia lay on her couch, unable to sleep. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Check locker 2221, Port Haven Station. Answers. No signature. She grabbed her keys. The precinct was quiet. Late shift officers nodded as she passed. She opened locker 2221 slowly. Inside, a duffel bag. And a letter. The bag held a flash drive, several burner phones, and a worn dog tag. She froze. It read, Rex, Unit 5C. Handler, Mia Keller. The letter was handwritten. If you're reading this, then I'm gone. But Rex isn't just a K9. He's my family. He saved me when the system forgot I existed. Whitaker knew who he was. Tried to buy him. When I refused, he came after me. I had to run. But Rex, he never stopped protecting me. If he came to you, it's because he trusts you. Please, finish what I couldn't. Mia. Tears blurred Julia's vision. She clutched the tag. Rex, laying on the floor, lifted his head. Their eyes met. You were hers, Julia whispered. You're still hers. The next morning, Trey met her in the parking lot. We traced the flash drive. Coordinates. An old safe house. Whitaker used it during that fentanyl case. Julia nodded. Then that's where we go. They suited up. Julia's vest felt heavier than usual. She strapped it tighter, looked at Rex. "You ready?" The shepherd barked once. Always. The safe house sat on the edge of town. Abandoned farm road. Barn half collapsed. They breached just before dawn. Inside, stale air and mold. Old crates. And a hatch. Rex growled low, then bolted forward, pawing at the floorboards. They pried the hatch open. Underground stairs. Flashlights on. At the bottom, a girl. Curled up in the corner. Thin, pale, but alive. Mia. She blinked against the light. "Rex?" she croaked. The dog lunged forward, tail whipping, body vibrating. He licked her face, whined, nuzzled her hands. She clutched him, sobbing. Julia knelt beside them, throat tight. "You're safe now," she said. Mia nodded slowly, still holding Rex. "I knew he'd find you," she whispered. "I knew." And Julia wept. The moment Mia stepped into the light, Julia saw it, how much the system had failed her. Pale, trembling, her clothes hanging loose, face streaked with dust and fear. But her eyes, they locked on Rex like he was the last solid thing in the world. "You're okay now," Julia whispered, gently placing a hand on the girl's shoulder. Mia barely nodded, lips cracked, voice hoarse. He found you." Rex pressed into her side, protective, unmoving. He was no longer just a dog. He was home. Julia turned to Trey, voice sharp again. "We need a medic now. Call it in." Outside, the dawn crept up, bleeding soft pinks into the Port Haven sky. But there was no peace in the air, only the tension of something just beginning. Back at the precinct, Mia sat under a blanket, sipping water. Julia knelt in front of her, patient. "Tell me everything," she said. Mia hesitated. Then, slowly, it came. "He knew who my brother was. Sergeant Eli Keller, K9 unit. Rex was his partner before Afghanistan. When they said Eli was gone, Rex disappeared too. I thought maybe he died. But then Rex found me." Her eyes flicked to the dog again. "At my group home. Just showed up one night outside the fence. I recognized him from photos. He wouldn't leave. Followed me everywhere. Protected me when things got bad." Julia's throat tightened. She'd heard enough about the Hillside Youth Center to know exactly what "got bad" meant. But when Whitaker saw him, he changed. Started asking questions about me, about my brother. Then he came one night, tried to take Rex, said he had a contract, and that I was in the way. "You ran?" Mia nodded. "I ran. Rex never left my side. We stayed off the grid. But Whitaker found us again. He didn't want me dead right away. He wanted Rex. Said Rex had memories." Trey, standing nearby, raised an eyebrow. "Memories?" Mia fidgeted. "Military dogs. They train them to detect patterns, faces, scents. Whitaker said Rex remembered names, places. And I think Rex recognized him." Julia stood slowly. Her mind was racing. "So Whitaker's not just running drugs." "He's ex-intel," Trey said, pulling up his tablet. "Military records sealed, but the crest on that notebook you found?" "Special Operations Division. Whitaker worked black site logistics, overseas, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen." He flipped. Julia muttered. "Used his contacts, his intel. Smuggled routes, turned state secrets into profit." Trey nodded. "That ledger we found in the locker? It's not just shipments. It's names. Half of them match federal agents who died in accidents. Julia's pulse thundered in her ears. And Rex? He was part of an op that went south. And he remembers. That was when the explosion rocked the building. The glass shattered. Ceiling panels rained down. Alarms blared. Lights flickered. Rex barked a single sharp command and leapt to cover Mia. "Everyone out!" Julia shouted. Gunfire erupted outside. Trey dragged Mia behind a desk. Julia pulled her Glock and pressed against the doorframe. A black SUV screeched into view. Masked men. Tactical gear. "They're coming for her," Trey said. "They're coming for Rex!" Julia snapped. Rex growled, low and deep. Then bolted forward. "Rex, no!" But the shepherd moved like lightning. Out the door, through the smoke, a blur of fur and fury. One attacker screamed as Rex took him down hard, teeth sinking into his arm. Another tried to shoot. Julia dropped him with a double tap to the shoulder. Chaos. Flashbangs went off in the hallway. Julia grabbed Mia's hand and pulled her toward the emergency exit. Trey covered the rear. Outside, Julia spotted Rex wrestling with a third man. She fired a warning shot. The attacker fled. The team bolted into the garage. Trey slammed the unmarked SUV into gear. Julia jumped in the back with Mia. Rex followed, blood on his coat but eyes still blazing. They didn't stop driving until they reached a ranger cabin 2 hours north. Julia paced the room as Mia slept on the couch, Rex curled around her. Trey poured coffee. "This isn't just about a girl or a dog." "No," Julia agreed. "This is war. Whitaker's going to burn everything to find them." Julia nodded. "Then we hit back first." Rex raised his head, like he understood. And maybe he did. The cabin felt too quiet. Julia stood by the window, watching the tree line like it might swallow them whole. Her service weapon lay on the table beside the remains of a rushed dinner. Mia slept in the bedroom, door cracked open. Rex lay beside it like a sentry, head on paws, eyes never fully closed. Trey clicked through surveillance footage on his laptop, tension in every movement. "Anything?" Julia asked. He shook his head. "Black SUV was a burner. Plates fake. But one guy's patch. Balkan Mercenary Group. Used to be under UN contracts." "They're outsourcing now?" Trey nodded grimly. "Whitaker's reaching. And he's scared." Julia dropped into the chair across from him. "Then we're close." They were. Closer than they'd ever been. Rex had led them to a drop site buried in the Port Haven woods, a half-frozen bunker filled with coded ledgers, encrypted phones, and a satchel full of unmarked bills. Pieces of something massive. And in the center of it all, one image. A surveillance photo. Julia, taken from across the street, printed and circled in red. They weren't chasing Whitaker anymore. He was hunting them. The front porch creaked. Rex growled low. Julia's hand moved to her gun. Trey froze, finger hovering over the trackpad. "You hear that?" Julia moved to the door silently. She peeked through the curtain. Nothing. Stillness. Then a metallic clang from the back. Rex shot up and bolted for the kitchen. "Mia, closet!" Julia shouted. The girl darted out of the room, Rex guiding her. Trey covered the door as Julia rounded the cabin. She didn't see the flashbang until it hit the snow at her feet. White light. Deafening boom. She hit the ground hard. When the ringing in her ears faded, she heard the fight short, brutal, the sound of bodies slamming into walls, a muffled scream, gunfire. Julia staggered up, heart hammering. Inside, the door was off its hinges. Trey lay groaning, clutching his side. Mia was gone. Rex, too. "No," Julia breathed. "No, no, no." Trey tried to speak. "Tracker. Collar. He wanted Rex." Then he passed out. Julia called it in. "This is Officer Julia Reyes. Code red. We've been compromised. One civilian abducted, K9 unit missing. Suspect is ex-military names Whitaker. I want a grid lockdown in 50 miles. She barely waited for a reply. They took Mia. They took Rex. And Julia Reyes was going to take them down. Hours passed. Trey stabilized at the hospital, bruised ribs and a concussion. The cabin was swarmed by state troopers and local feds, but no sign of Mia or Rex. Then the ping came. A jeep's location. South. Abandoned quarry near Harrow Ridge. Julia didn't wait for backup. The sun was rising when she pulled up to the gates. Fog clung to the rusted machinery. The silence rang in her ears. She stepped out of the cruiser, hand on her Glock. Then a sound. Whining. Rex. It echoed off the stone walls, then again closer. Urgent. Julia followed it, weaving through stacks of cracked cement pipes and ruined loaders. She found them in the center. Mia tied to a steel beam, duct tape over her mouth, a C4 charge blinking red beside her. Rex was chained to a post, barking furiously, eyes on Julia. "Hold on," Julia whispered. She ran to Mia first, yanking the tape off. "He's here," Mia gasped. "He knows you're coming." The click of a gun cocking stopped Julia cold. Whitaker stood behind her, pistol raised. Calm. Controlled. "Officer Reyes," he said. "You're earlier than I expected." Julia didn't flinch. "This is over." Whitaker shook his head. "It never even started." He stepped forward. "You want answers? Fine. Your girl's brother, Eli Keller, he wasn't a hero. He was part of the operation. We were all part of it." "What operation?" Whitaker gestured toward Rex. "Unit Ghost. K9 Recon. They trained the dogs to recognize patterns, track chemical signatures, even human faces. But we pushed it too far, used them to hunt targets we weren't supposed to kill. Black contracts, off-book assassinations." Julia's blood ran cold. "And when it all went south," Whitaker continued, "we were left to clean it up. Your golden boy, Keller, he tried to go public, so I made sure he didn't." He raised the gun. "I'll finish this the same way." The next sound was pure fury. Rex. He lunged. The chain snapped. Julia fired once. Whitaker dropped. Rex barreled into him, pinning him down, snarling, jaws inches from his throat. Julia rushed to Mia, disarmed the charge with shaking hands. Sirens wailed in the distance. Whitaker groaned beneath Rex's weight. "He remembers." Julia stood over him, eyes burning. "So will the world." Rex sat back, chest heaving, eyes never leaving the traitor. Justice, silent and breathing. Alive. Rex wouldn't leave her side. Even after the quarry raid, after the backup units poured in and Whitaker was dragged into custody, Julia could feel his presence like a second heartbeat. He padded behind her through the crime scene, bloody and scraped, but alert. Unbreakable. Mia was safe. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. The deeper they dug into Whitaker's files, the worse it got. Disks hidden inside concrete blocks. A ledger stuffed into the lining of an ammo crate. One phone, untouched, encrypted. But when it was finally cracked, Trey turned pale. Julia leaned in, reading over his shoulder. "Project Ghost?" Trey nodded. It wasn't just a nickname. It was a full-blown division. Funded, staffed, tested on. He clicked on a folder labeled Subjects. Rows of images loaded German shepherds mostly. Notes beside each photo. Status, reassigned, euthanized, MIA. Then a familiar face. Rex. Julia's stomach dropped. Code GS09. Status, failed containment. Trey clicked the file. A video began. A dark room. 2 men talking. One in shadow. Voice. Subject GS09 responded aggressively to non-verbal cues. Neural mapping showed aberrant bonding patterns. Voice 2. Can we terminate? Voice 1. No. Keller insisted we transfer him to civilian police. Untraceable. Voice 2. And the handler? Voice 1. He doesn't know. Julia turned to Rex. He looked at her. Innocent. Loyal. But something in those words stuck in her throat. They lied to us. Trey didn't answer. He clicked another file, an email chain. The name at the top hit like a punch to the chest. Captain Whitaker. But the CC? Sheriff Dana Croft. Julia stepped back. My captain? Looks like she was part of it? Since when? The entire time. She signed off on your K9 transfer. Julia's ears rang. This wasn't a rogue operation. This was systemic. And Rex was never just a partner. He was evidence. She grabbed her coat. Where are you going? Trey asked. To finish this. Croft's office was dark. She worked late. Always had. A creature of routine. Julia moved fast, silent through the back hallway of the sheriff's department, heart in her throat. Rex at her heel. She didn't knock. Croft looked up from her desk. Calm. Officer Reyes, she said. I was just about to call you. You knew, Julia said, voice shaking. About Whitaker. About Project Ghost. About Keller. Croft leaned back. Yes. Just like that, no denial. You sent Keller to his death, Julia said. No, Keller chose his death. He tried to go public. I tried to stop him. He wouldn't listen. Then you buried it. Brought Rex into my unit like he was just another dog. He is a dog, Croft said. Rex growled. Croft paused. Julia, listen to me. That program, it was meant to save lives, target high-level threats. But the politics got messy. Blackmail, trafficking, contracts we couldn't control. You kept it going. We needed leverage, and Rex, he's the only one left who remembers. Julia's hand hovered near her gun. Then what? She asked. You disappear us too? Croft exhaled. I don't want to hurt you, Julia, but you need to understand what's at stake. Rex stepped forward. Croft's hand moved fast under her desk. Julia fired. The gun slid across the floor. Croft dropped, clutching her shoulder, eyes wide in disbelief. You shot me! Julia didn't blink. Rex would have killed you. I chose mercy. Sirens wailed outside. Trey had called it in. Rex barked once, low and sharp. Justice was coming. They found a hidden safe behind Croft's office wall. Flash drives, contracts, photos, all pointing to a buried operation that stretched across multiple states. Julia gave a full statement. No one silenced her. Croft lawyered up. Whitaker disappeared into federal custody. And Rex? He was hailed as a hero. Again. But Julia knew the truth. He wasn't just brave. He was broken. Like her. And still, he chose to protect. Even from the people he once trusted. That night, she sat with him on her porch. Rex lay beside her, muzzle on her boot. You were never just a K9, she whispered. He didn't move. You were part of something. Something they tried to erase. Rex lifted his head, eyes on hers. I won't let them, she said. Not again. Rex licked her hand, loyal, unshakable, and finally free. The courtroom was packed. Journalists lined the back, whispering into microphones. Locals filled every bench, some standing against the walls. Everyone wanted to see how it would end. Julia Reyes sat stiffly at the witness stand. Her uniform was pressed, her badge gleamed, but her eyes held fire. And next to her, Sitting calmly on the floor was Rex. Not leashed, not restrained, just there, by her side. The prosecutor adjusted his tie. "Officer Reyes," he began, "did you, at any point, suspect Captain Dana Croft of being involved in the cover-up of Project Ghost?" Julia didn't flinch. "No, not until the final week. That's when the pieces started falling into place." He nodded. "And did Rex assist you in uncovering the truth?" She looked down at Rex. "More than assist. He led me there." "Explain." Julia's voice tightened. Rex wasn't just a K-9. He was trained in Project Ghost. But unlike the others, he survived. He remembered. When the others forgot or died, Rex held on. There was a ripple of movement in the crowd. And when I realized they were still hunting him, trying to silence what he knew, I knew I had to act. Croft sat silently at the defense table. Her arm was in a sling. Her jaw was clenched. Cold. The defense attorney rose. "Officer Reyes, are you suggesting a dog had memory retention equivalent to a trained agent?" "Yes," Julia said flatly. "And not just memory. Loyalty." Rex didn't move. His ears twitched slightly. Watching. Listening. The judge called a recess. Outside, the air was electric. Mia ran up to Julia, throwing her arms around her. "You did it! You actually did it!" Julia smiled faintly. "It's not over. But the evidence, the files, your testimony. They're still cleaning house." Whitaker flipped. "Croft's going down. But this isn't just about them anymore." Mia frowned. "What do you mean?" Julia knelt beside Rex. "This is about what they tried to erase, what they tried to bury." Rex licked her cheek once, then sat, alert as ever. "Project Ghost wasn't just a covert program," Julia said. "It was proof that trust, even when broken, can rebuild itself." Mia nodded slowly. "So what now?" Julia looked up at the building behind them. "Now we make it mean something." 2 months later, the Port Haven Civic Center was filled with applause. Mayor Grant stood at the podium. "We are honored today to present the city's Medal of Valor to someone whose actions saved lives, exposed corruption, and reminded us of the values we hold dearest." He paused, then smiled. "To Officer Julia Reyes and Rex." The crowd stood, clapping, cheering. Some wiped their eyes. Julia stepped forward. Rex walked beside her. The medal was pinned to her chest. Then, to everyone's surprise, the mayor bent down and placed a second medal, smaller, gold-plated onto Rex's collar. Rex barked once. The room erupted. After the ceremony, reporters swarmed her. "Officer Reyes, how do you feel? What happens to Rex now? Will there be a full federal investigation?" Julia raised her hand. "I'll answer your questions," she said. "But first, let me say something." The cameras focused. "When I met Rex, he was more than a dog. He was lost, misused, lied to, just like I was. But loyalty doesn't break easy." She looked at Rex. "He never gave up on me. Not when things got dark. Not when the people we trusted betrayed us. He stayed. And because of that, we got justice." A hush fell. "We're starting something new. The Ghost Initiative. A program for retired K-9s like Rex. Those who served, who saved lives, who were never thanked properly. They deserve better. And we're going to make sure they get it." Flashbulbs exploded. Julia turned to the crowd. "If Rex's story moved you, if you've ever believed in second chances, then join us. Share his story. Support the cause. Help us make sure no hero is forgotten." Rex barked again. It echoed, loud, proud, and free. That night, Julia walked with Rex along the shoreline outside Port Haven. The stars above shimmered like glass. The sea was calm. Rex trotted ahead, then paused, turned, waited. "You still watch my six," Julia whispered. She joined him, kneeling, scratching behind his ear. "You always will." He leaned into her hand, and for a moment there was nothing else. No secrets, no pain, just a woman and her dog, bound not by duty, but by everything that lasts when duty fades. Loyalty, courage, love. What's your story with a loyal companion? Share it in the comments. And if this story touched you, support the Ghost Initiative by liking, subscribing, and spreading the word. Because some heroes wear badges, others just wear fur. The courtroom was packed. Journalists lined the back, whispering into microphones. Locals filled every bench, some standing against the walls. Everyone wanted to see how it would end. Julia Reyes sat stiffly at the witness stand. Her uniform was pressed. Her badge gleamed. But her eyes held fire. And next to her, sitting calmly on the floor, was Rex. Not leashed, not restrained. Just there, by her side. The prosecutor adjusted his tie. "Officer Reyes," he began, "did you at any point suspect Captain Dana Croft of being involved in the cover-up of Project Ghost?" Julia didn't flinch. "No, not until the final week. That's when the pieces started falling into place." He nodded. "And did Rex assist you in uncovering the truth?" She looked down at Rex. "More than assist. He led me there." "Explain." Julia's voice tightened. Rex wasn't just a K-9. He was trained in Project Ghost. But unlike the others, he survived. He remembered. When the others forgot or died, Rex held on. There was a ripple of movement in the crowd. And when I realized they were still hunting him, trying to silence what he knew I had to act. Croft sat silently at the defense table. Her arm was in a sling. Her jaw was clenched. Cold. The defense attorney rose. "Officer Reyes, are you suggesting a dog had memory retention equivalent to a trained agent?" "Yes," Julia said flatly. "And not just memory. Loyalty." Rex didn't move. His ears twitched slightly. Watching. Listening. The judge called a recess. Outside, the air was electric. Mia ran up to Julia, throwing her arms around her. "You did it! You actually did it!" Julia smiled faintly. "It's not over. But the evidence, the files, your testimony. They're still cleaning house. Whitaker flipped. Croft's going down. But this isn't just about them anymore." Mia frowned. "What do you mean?" Julia knelt beside Rex. "This is about what they tried to erase. What they tried to bury." Rex licked her cheek once, then sat, alert as ever. "Project Ghost wasn't just a covert program," Julia said. "It was proof that trust, even when broken, can rebuild itself." Mia nodded slowly. "So what now?" Julia looked up at the building behind them. "Now we make it mean something." 2 months later, the Port Haven Civic Center was filled with applause. Mayor Grant stood at the podium. "We are honored today to present the city's Medal of Valor to someone whose actions saved lives, exposed corruption, and reminded us of the values we hold dearest." He paused, then smiled. "To Officer Julia Reyes and Rex." The crowd stood, clapping, cheering. Some wiped their eyes. Julia stepped forward. Rex walked beside her. The medal was pinned to her chest. Then, to everyone's surprise, the mayor bent down and placed a second medal, smaller, gold-plated onto Rex's collar. Rex barked once. The room erupted. After the ceremony, reporters swarmed her. "Officer Reyes, how do you feel? What happens to Rex now? Will there be a full federal investigation?" Julia raised her hand. "I'll answer your questions," she said. "But first, let me say something." The cameras focused. "When I met Rex, He was more than a dog. He was lost, misused, lied to, just like I was. But loyalty doesn't break easy. She looked at Rex. He never gave up on me. Not when things got dark. Not when the people we trusted betrayed us. He stayed. And because of that, we got justice. A hush fell. We're starting something new. The Ghost Initiative. A program for retired canines like Rex. Those who served, who saved lives, who were never thanked properly. They deserve better, and we're going to make sure they get it. Flashbulbs exploded. Julia turned to the crowd. If Rex's story moved you, if you've ever believed in second chances, then join us. Share his story, support the cause, help us make sure no hero is forgotten. Rex barked again. It echoed, loud, proud, and free. That night, Julia walked with Rex along the shoreline outside Port Haven. The stars above shimmered like glass. The sea was calm. Rex trotted ahead, then paused, turned, waited. "You still watch my six?" Julia whispered. She joined him, kneeling, scratching behind his ear. "You always will." He leaned into her hand. And for a moment, there was nothing else. No secrets, no pain, just a woman and her dog, bound not by duty, but by everything that lasts when duty fades. Loyalty, courage, love. What's your story with a loyal companion? Share it in the comments. And if this story touched you, support the Ghost Initiative by liking, subscribing, and spreading the word. Because some heroes wear badges, others just wear fur.